Hello, Jonathan Haynes from Tour de Force Consultants. Okay, so it's another nice day. So here we are with what would be the second in the series of sort of video pieces in relation to Tour de Force client involved in the infection control and surveillance area of hospitals. The first video I talked about just a quick summary about why infection control systems are important. And very much allied to that issue, which, as I said, is costing hospitals in excess of €1 million per year. Very much allied to that is the subject of antibiotic stewardship. Now, of course, antibiotics are well known. These are used to combat infections widely, and in recent years, the last couple of decades particularly, the use of antibiotics has become quite a huge amount of antibiotics have been used around the world, particularly I think in France and the States. And whilst that sort of overuse of antibiotics was clearly unwise and very expensive, unfortunately over the last few years we've discovered that it's actually much more serious than that. So now the world is in a situation which is quite dramatic, can't be overstated, where pharmaceutical companies have pretty much stopped producing new antibiotics, A, because of the sheer cost of them, and B, because in recent years new antibiotics have very quickly become restricted in their use. And the reason for this restriction in their use is because the antibiotics have been used worldwide in the wrong cases. The wrong antibiotics have been used for the wrong condition, or they've been overused. So we're now in a situation where very few, if any, antibiotics are being newly produced, and organisms that these antibiotics have been made to counteract are now becoming resistant to the antibiotics that exist. This is leaving us with a very difficult situation where we're already practically at the situation where hospitals are having to use antibiotics of last resort for organisms that really should have been able to be kept at bay with the simpler and less harmful antibiotics. Antibiotics of last resort are antibiotics that leave you with other issues afterwards. These are extreme only use of vancomycin. So what is the issue here? The issue is that globally hospitals are now being asked to indulge in antibiotic stewardship, which is the better management of antibiotics. And related to that, in the first video we were talking about infection control and surveillance systems, which allow the infection control team to view what's going on across the hospital and how patients are being treated and how and where and if they're picking up hospital-acquired infections. The situation with antibiotic stewardship is very similar, in which effectively you're asking the pharmacy team in the hospital or the specialist antibiotic pharmacist to look at the use of antibiotics in detail across the hospital and to recommend and restrict certain antibiotics so that by and large the right antibiotics are used in the right place. And the aim here is to pursue that hard, so the right regime is used and the antibiotics of last resort are only used in extreme cases, and then bit by bit the resistance that organisms are showing now, increasingly showing to antibiotics, will be reduced, so that we'll hopefully be able to return to the situation we had 5 or 10 years ago, where fairly normal organisms that one finds can be dealt with by the standard antibiotics that you would normally use. And to do that we need to reduce these organisms' resistance once more, and we do that by making sure that they're properly controlled. So and there are systems for that, and one of my clients has got an incredibly good system for antibiotic stewardship, and that's the second part of the jigsaw, as it were.